All right, welcome to The Explainer. So today we're tackling that classic dilemma every creative knows all too well, the artist versus the entrepreneur. And we're going to explore how you can turn that inner conflict from, a source of major stress into your biggest superpower. So let's just dive right in. Where does this all start? Well, it really comes down to that one moment every single artist faces, when your passion, your art, suddenly has to pay the bills. You know the musician Masko, he just puts it perfectly. On one side, you've got art. It's fluid, it's emotional, deeply personal, and let's be honest, totally unpredictable. And then on the other side, you've got business. It's structured, systematic, and runs on cold, hard logic. I mean, they feel like they're from different planets. And what happens when these two completely different worlds slam into each other? Well, like Masego says, it's just chaos. And this isn't just some abstract feeling. It's a real, tangible force that can totally derail your creative career if you're not ready for it. And this chaos, it pops up in these super specific and, let's face it, really awkward moments. Like, how in the world do you put a price tag on something that feels like it came from your soul? Or why do your friends suddenly think they're entitled to be on the guest list for everything? And when that first big check finally comes in, how do you split it up fairly without blowing up your band or your friendships? These are the real-world problems that come from that collision. Okay, so is this all just a stereotype, that whole tortured artist cliche? Or is there something, I don't know, deeper going on? Maybe even something scientific that explains why creative minds just seem to be wired differently than your typical business leader? I mean, we've all heard the stories, right? The erratic artist, the creative prima donna. But let's actually push past those old myths for a second and see what the research has to say about the personalities at play here. And it turns out there is actually science to back this feeling up. A pretty recent study from 2024, it was in Frontiers in Psychology. They dug right into this question. Are there real, measurable personality differences between people who choose artistic careers and those who go into business leadership? And what they found was pretty significant. The study showed that artists, on average, tend to score higher on neuroticism, which, is basically a tendency towards emotional ups and downs, and lower on conscientiousness, which is all about being organized and disciplined. And that's pretty much the exact opposite of the profile you typically see in business leaders. But hang on, because this is where it gets really interesting. What if those personality differences aren't actually a weakness you need to fix? What if they're your unique asset, a powerful advantage, just waiting to be used? Branding expert Rachel Lee just nails this idea. She says the thing you're most insecure about is often your greatest marketing asset. Think about that for a second. Your emotional depth, your unique way of seeing the world. Those aren't flaws. They're your secret weapons. This is a huge mindset shift. So how does this actually work in the real world? Well, as the folks on the Communication Queens podcast talk about, it's about sharing your journey, and not just the shiny, perfect highlights, but that messy middle, the doubts, the weird quirks, all of it. That's what builds real trust. That's what makes people connect with you. And this brings us to a quote from filmmaker Trisha Creason Valencia that just cuts right to the heart of it. People don't connect to perfection. They connect to truth. In a world that's getting flooded with polished facades and flawless online personas, your genuine, unfiltered humanity, that's the one thing that can't be replicated. It is your ultimate competitive advantage. Okay, and to really drive this point home, there's this brilliant metaphor from speaker Marian Hickman. Think about a bottle of water. It costs maybe $1 at the grocery store, $3 at the gym, and $5 at the airport. The water is the same, right? Its value is constant. It's the environment that changes the price. So the big takeaway here is, if you feel like you're not being valued, you're not the problem. You might just be in the wrong room. Okay, so we've got the new mindset. We get it. Our authentic self is valuable. But how do we actually turn that into a business plan? A real framework that works for a creative brain? Well, Masego argues that the key is to define your own world from the get-go. It's like creating a bill of rights for your career, a personal manifesto. You have to be crystal clear about your boundaries, your non-negotiables, before you even start working with people so they know exactly what world they're stepping into. So this whole manifesto really stands on 4 key pillars. First up, define your world. You have to know what you stand for, your why. That's your North Star. Second, recognize the value exchange. Be clear about what you bring and what you need in return. It's about clarity and respect, not just cash. Third, improve communication. You've got to become a translator between the language of the suits and the language of the artists. And finally, number 4, tame the ego. Stay humble. Remember that fame is relative and humility is what keeps you growing. So, when you start to put all these pieces together, it completely changes what entrepreneurship even means for a creative person. It's not about cramming your fluid, artistic self into a cold, rigid business box. It's an act of creation itself. MEGAO has a great term for this. He calls it world building. When you collaborate, you're not just making a product or a song. It's more like you're merging two creative kingdoms. You're inviting someone into this unique world that you've built with real intention. So, in the end, the crucial question we need to leave you with isn't, are you an artist or an entrepreneur? That's the wrong question. It's not a choice. The real